Welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast, brought to you by me, Alex Miley, and my friend Thomas Bailey. We have a lot to get into in this episode as we're going to be recapping Patriots Jets last night, going over the week 3 slate, getting into some college football, even talking a little bit of MLB. We haven't been able to get into that in a while because of how much football has been going on. But first, I want to start with the Jets absolutely dominating the Patriots last night, 24-3, behind Rodgers, 280 and 2 touchdowns. The Patriots offense couldn't get anything going as the Jets' stifling defense held them to 3 points. Drake May even came in the game and almost led them on a touchdown drive, but fell short as time did expire at the end. Thomas, what are your thoughts on this game?
Complete trash game from start to finish, really. I think everybody and their brother knew that the Jets were going to win this one. The Patriots are finally starting to be figured out. Everyone knows what kind of a team they're going to be this year. They're going to have to run the ball down your throat on offense and hope to God that play action works on second and third and longs. And right now, obviously, we're at that point in the season where teams are finally starting to figure out their identities. And the Jets are one of those teams this year. They started out a little slow, struggled with the Titans last week, couldn't beat the 49ers on Monday night, which is understandable. But a tough start for them, so they kind of figured it out here in week 3. They got the offense going. Lazard gets in the end zone. So does Garrett Wilson. Braylon Allen with another very good game. Breece Hall had a solid night. Offensive line held up very nicely. Cannot be said on the opposite side there for the New England Patriots. 7 sacks given up, a forced fumble as well, with a fumble recovery for Chuck Clark, of all people. He's also the one that forced the fumble, so good on him, I guess. But tough night for New England. Of course, you see a little bit of a glimpse there from Drake May on that 4th down where they get the 15-yard playoff, but it's about it. Really not too much going on for them. Tough loss to take early in the year, but this is what we expect from New England. Obviously, the Patriots fans aren't going to be too upset. We're in the middle of a rebuild. This is probably the result you expect, and the Jets get it done.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Patriots, I guess I'm a Patriots fan. I'd just be a little upset at how badly they got beaten, but I'm not upset that they lose at all. Because yeah, they're one of those teams that are going to need just a lot of talent, and then this quarterback class is actually shaping up to be a little bit better than people expected. So if they end up with a top 3 pick, they could probably get a really good offer to be able to move back to say pick 9, 10, depending on who's there, pick up a bunch of extra picks and really bolster this roster. So I mean, I like the way they played in the first 2 games, but as you said, they are starting to get figured out. They were without David Andrews in this game, though, who is their best offensive lineman, so that really hurt their run game. Jacoby Brissett he had a bad game. That's going to happen. He's nothing more than average game manager. When the run game's not working, he's not going to really be able to do much, especially against defense like the Jets, who's gotten better every single game. So I'm not surprised. A little disappointed because I had a bet with Ramondre, and I have Ramondre in some fantasy leagues, stuff like that. So just more of like my personal preference. I would have liked to see some more out of Ramondre, but couldn't really do much. They couldn't really run the ball much, and then yeah, the offense is strictly based off play action. The defense didn't do an awful job. I mean, only allowing 24 points. They were able to hold up in certain situations, so I don't hate the way that they played, but allowing 24 points to a Jets offense who hadn't looked great through 2 weeks is not a great sign. I think Rodgers also at the same time just had a really good game, so it can go either way. But we're gonna go right into week 2 of the NFL. We'll start with uh,
Week 3.
we'll yeah, my bad. Week 3. We'll start with Packers Titans. What are your thoughts on that game?
I think that if Love plays, that this could be a very good game for them. I do think that he probably needs one more week. Unfortunately for the Packers fans, they probably don't want to hear that. And I made my prediction based off him not playing, so I will throw that out there before my score prediction. Final score 17-16 in favor of Tennessee is my score prediction. If he does play, I think they get the job done. But I'm predicting he doesn't play, so I will stick with my pick the whole way through. 17-16, I think the Titans finally going to win. Another 17 point outing by the offense for the Tennessee Titans. But I just don't like the optimism here for Malik Willis. He had a solid game last week, but that's more so because he played a team that's very, very bad against the run. And they had DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart both missed that contest. They didn't have anybody up the middle in the linebacking core that could stop the run either. Like EJ Speed's known for his covering in linebacking, but he's not known for being that run stopper. So realistically, you don't have anybody on that defense that can really stop the run. you had players coming up from the safety spot like Cross there, Nick Cross, the safety, trying to come up and make tackles. It's just not going to work against a guy like Josh Jacobs. He ate the entire night. Malik Willis did what he had to do. I think he's going to be asked to do a lot more in this game. And against a cornerback duo of L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie, I don't think he has a solid game passing the football. I think that the receiving core is not going to get open all that often in this game. Look at how they shut down Garrett Wilson last week. I don't think that anybody on the Packers is as good as Garrett Wilson. And because of that fact, I do think that L'Jarius Sneed's going to shut him down. They're going to be forced to run the ball. And when it becomes obvious, like the Patriots kind of last night, I think that this Packers offense is going to be dead in the water, and that's when Tennessee can kind of take advantage and get the job done in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean, my score prediction is actually quite similar. I had, if it's Malik Willis starting, I have the Titans winning 17-13. If Jordan Love starts, I have the Packers winning 23-17. I really think he makes that big of a difference to this offense just because Malik Willis really can't push the ball on the field at all. He can hand it off. He's a threat to run, and he can hit some check downs, I guess. I mean, what did he have? Like, I think less than 15 attempts against the Colts because
he had like 13 or 14 passes, nothing crazy.
Yeah, and the Titans have a better run defense than the Colts. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, Ernest Jones, those are both complete studs. So I think they'll be able to stop their offense, stop the offense a little bit more than the Colts. But I don't expect too much out of this Titans offense. I mean, Will Levis just hasn't looked great this year. I expected him to look a little bit better, but he just makes dumb play after dumb play. I mean, they've surrounded him with some weapons, so there is some big plays that happen. I mean, there's the big Calvin Ridley touchdown. Tony Pollard's pretty good. D-Hop is, I mean, I guess been non-existent, but we know what he brings to the table. Chiggy Okonkwo is not a bad tight end. So they have some weapons where if he can figure it out, maybe they can move it up and down in this Packers defense. But this Packers defense has, at least last week, but has looked pretty decent so far this year. Rougher week one, but they made some plays. And then obviously last week they really shut down the Colts offense that played pretty well the week before. So it was an impressive defensive performance by them last week. But again, I didn't think they were going to win last week, and they proved me wrong. So maybe Malik Willis will prove me wrong again. But I really just don't think much of him at all. So I think if Malik Willis plays this game, that the Packers are not going to be able to continue that luck of just being able to run it down the throats. I think it will come to an end, and yeah, I will pick the Titans. Moving on to the next game, we have another probably low-scoring game, the Chargers versus the Steelers.
Yeah, I think that Herbert ends up playing in this one, so I do think that Herbert plays. I think he'll be very limited in what he does. I don't think you're going to see anything crazy out of him with the athleticism side. Don't think he's going to run the ball too much or anything like that. Not that he does. I just don't think he's going to run out of the pocket. He's going to be more of a traditional pocket passer, especially for this game, being that it is a high ankle sprain that he's designated with. So if he does indeed play, I do think that the Chargers get it done. I feel like even if he doesn't play, there's a solid chance because we already know how this Chargers offense is going to roll. It's going to roll through J.K. Dobbins for the majority of the season. Jim Harbaugh, has really made that his true identity on this team, and he's made it very far doing that. With you saw how they worked with Michigan, and I think that he does the exact same thing here. I do predict a win, 17-10. I think that the Steelers offense is just going to be very lackluster in this game. I understand you're going to have a guy like Roman Wilson making his first career start, the receiver out of Michigan. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference because
if anyone knows how to stop Roman Wilson would be the coach he's playing against.
Right, exactly. I mean, but the thing is, though, is at the same time, it's the quarterback who's throwing the football that's really making me not being able to pick these guys. It's Justin Fields. And I'm sorry, I think Justin Fields is an all right quarterback. It's just I'm not sure if he's going to be the kind of guy to go in there and really just play better than anyone else has in this situation so far. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the the Los Angeles Chargers to get the job done, 17-10.
Yeah, you stole my score prediction because I was also going Chargers 17-10. Again, I expect this to be low scoring. Two very good defenses, two very well-respected coaches. The difference is Justin Herbert or Justin Fields. I'm going to take Justin Herbert 10 times out of 10. He's a way better quarterback than Justin Fields, and I think that's really
even when
difference.
Injured.
I mean, yeah, even if he's not at 100%, he's still better than Justin Fields. And I mean, even if Herbert doesn't play, I still think the Chargers can pull this out. They could pull out a 13-10 win. I mean, they're relying a lot on their run. They're not even relying too much on Herbert this year. So I think they bolstered their backup. I forgot who they added. Was it Heineke? They just added some guy.
I don't know.
I know they traded for some guy to be their backup, and he's like known as like a pretty decent backup. I can't remember his name, so it's not Easton Stick starting anymore. But either way, I think Herbert does end up playing this game because they don't really rely on him too much anyways because of that rushing attack, and the
Right.
O-line is good enough where they can trot him out not at 100% and they can feel like he'll be protected back there. And then, yeah, as you pointed out, the Steelers, they got Justin Fields as the quarterback or Russell Wilson if he somehow plays. Either way, not very good. And George Pickens is the only good weapon. I mean, Najee, Roman Wilson, and Jalen Warner, all right. Pat Freiermuth's decent, but the George Pickens is the only one that would actually like scare a defense. And the Chargers defense has been so good this year. I granted they played the Raiders and the Panthers, but 13 points in two games is
The Raiders did
extremely
beat the
elite.
Ravens, so
Yeah, and then so I mean, the Chargers do have a very elite defense, so I don't expect the Steelers to be able to move the ball much. I mean, they haven't really
Justin
moved
Fields is a lot like Jaden Daniels, where he can't play under pressure. And if you got Max Crosby and
you mean
Christian
Joey
Wilson,
Bosa and Khalil Mack?
yeah, right. What
You're
am I
thinking of the
talking?
Raiders.
I am thinking of the Raiders. That's my fault. But Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on that defense, though, you're not going to be able to stop them, especially when Broderick
No.
Jones has not been able to stop like anybody so far this season. He's a turnstile.
Greg Rousseau
at
owned
right
him
tackle.
had 2.5 sacks on him in one quarter in the
Yeah,
preseason.
literally.
And Broderick Jones has not looked that good.
Still, yeah, no, he hasn't looked great. So I can't see them winning, especially when Justin Fields is terrible under pressure.
Yeah. No, I mean, who knows? Mike Tomlin is always one of those coaches that just pulls out random wins. So maybe they do somehow find a way to win this game. So I'm not going to fully count them out, but I feel decently confident the Chargers do win this game. Moving on to our next game, we have the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. This looks like it actually should be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I really like this game a lot. I had a final score prediction of 24-16 in favor of the Houston Texans. I think they get the job done here at home. On the road in Minnesota, pardon. Stephon Diggs will probably have a solid game in this one. I mean, is his former team, first of two different times he'll be playing his former team this year. But I do think that this I know. But I do think that this will be a very solid game. I think Sam Darnold's proven everybody wrong so far this season. I understand somewhat of a beat-up 49ers defense after Nick Bosa left the game. Of course, the offense couldn't get anything going after Kittle and Samuel leave that game with injuries. So realistically, how good are they? I think this is a very good week to determine that. I still think they're very solid, nonetheless. Bless you. But I do think that this is going to be a very important game for Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. I think that this is one they lose, though. I don't think that's to take anything away from what they've done so far this season. It's just you're going up against a top 5 team in the NFL right now in the Houston Texans. That defense has looked absolutely terrifying. Sorry. But I do think that they're going to be very solid again in this week. I think that they're going to force them to get a couple field goals. I think Jettas is not going to be playing at 100%, which is definitely a disadvantage. Obviously, Addison being
Justin Jefferson at 90% is better than 95% of all NFL wide receivers, though.
Oh yeah, still, but without Addison as well again for this week, Hawkinson's still out. I do think that this will be a game where they struggle finally, but give me the Houston Texans. Stroud's looked so solid so far this season. I think Nico Collins has another very good game, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball solidly in this one as well, even if Mixon doesn't play. I think that they'll have a solid game all the way around, and they're going to get the job done on the road in Minnesota, 24-16.
Yeah, give me the Texans 24-20. I do think the Vikings offense will be able to be a little bit better than you think against this Texans defense, because what the Texans rely on is that elite pass rush, and the Vikings have a very good offensive line behind Christian Darrisaw. Kevin O'Connell's also very good at being able, like, his blocking schemes are also quite elite, so it makes his O-line look a little bit better than it's supposed to be. So I expect them to be able to handle that pressure that Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter, who used to play for the Vikings, so if anyone knows how to kind of slow him down, it would probably be this coaching staff. And then at the same time, you got Derek Stingley, who's their best corner. He's probably going to have to go against Justin Jefferson. Even if Jettis is not at 100%, that's still a mismatch for him. So I expect that the Vikings offense will be able to still run the ball. decently and be able to move the ball a little bit on this Texans defense. It has looked pretty good through 2 weeks. I mean, I guess pretty decent, I would say, because I mean they did allow 27 to the Colts, so they are I can't speak. They do a
Susceptible.
lot susceptible to big plays. I mean, as you saw, Anthony Richardson hit like 3 of them on. And then obviously Sam Darnold is really good at hitting those deep shots. You saw the 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson last week. But then I just think CJ Stroud throwing to Nico, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz, it's just too much. I mean, Nico's looking like he has cemented himself as you can make an argument a top 5 receiver in this league, a definite top 10 receiver in this league. And CJ Stroud is looking to continue how he played last year, where many people thought he's a top 5 quarterback. He's showing that way again this year. He's looking like he didn't lose a step. I mean, that connection, they already have like almost 300 yards together, so it's looking really lethal, and I don't see it stopping against a questionable Viking secondary. It doesn't matter how good Brian Flores is. He's not. I don't expect him to be able to slow down this Texas offense too much.
Right.
Yep. And then moving on to the next game, we have the Eagles taking on the red-hot New Orleans Saints.
Man, I went back and forth on this one for a little bit, especially after last week when I had the Cowboys walking in and dominating 34-17. That was my score prediction. And this week I'm a little more nervous.
Cowboys winning closely.
Yeah, I was nervous about picking this, but I do think the Eagles are going to win it 27-24. I think this is a very solid game. I think one thing you can very much so take away from this game is going to be Alvin Kamara. Can he run the ball against that defense? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball nearly as well as they did last week. You got Jalen Carter in the interior. You have Brandon Graham on the edge there, of course. I think they'll have a solid bounce-back game trying to stop the run, because last week they couldn't stop it against Bijan. I think they're going to realize that that's how this Saints offense is a well-oiled machine. They have to run the ball first, work off play action to get those deep shots open, like the Rashid Shaheed bombs or like the Chris Olave bomb last week. You're going to have to make plays in the run defense to be able to prevent those plays over the top. And that's one thing you got to be able to do against the New Orleans Saints that you cannot overlook. And I'm telling you right now that that's going to be the deciding factor is what they do. I think Quinion Mitchell's been the only solid piece of the secondary so far this year for Philly, which is why it scares me so much. But I think Jalen Hurts is finally to kind of looking to get that monkey off his back. These last couple of weeks, they've been like, oh, all the turnovers, this, that, and the third. I think he's going to have a very solid game. He's going to prove that he can do everything that he is capable of doing. He's going to have a bounce-back game. Barkley beat himself up all this sorry, but he's beating himself up all week over that Monday night game where they lost. And so I do think that he bounces back too. I think they'll have a solid game on the ground. Devontae Smith builds off of his week last week as well. I think Dallas Goedert has a solid game. And the Eagles win on a last-second field goal. That's my prediction, 27-24 over the Saints in a thrilling game.
Yeah, so this, I also agree. This is my upset of the week. Currently, I'm 0-2 on upset picks, but I mean, so is Thomas. So neither of us have been great with our upset picks, but I will go 30-27 Eagles.
What was my upset last week?
I'm pretty sure you had the Rams because you didn't really pick many upsets, and the Cardinals were favored, so that was considered an upset pick.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I don't quite remember.
It was.
Yep, okay. And this game just screams trap game for me for the Saints, coming off 2 big wins, 2 dominating wins, and then the Eagles coming off a game where they didn't look great against the Packers but pulled it out, and then choking away that game against the Falcons. I expect a fire to be lit under them, and then to be coming out on fire, that offense. I really expect Jalen Hurts to really lock in. Saquon, I think will have a really good game. Even without A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I really like what I've seen out of him so far this year. Dallas Goedert's looked pretty decent.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line obviously is really good against a Saints run defense who's looked obviously normally as good as they have, but I just expect the Saints or this Eagles offensive line to kind of overpower them because the O-line is just so good. They don't really have many holes in that offensive line. And then Saquon being such a good running back, I expect them to be able to get the run game going. And then defensively, I think Jalen Carter he hasn't really done much so far this year. Him and Jordan Davis have been kind of non-existent. I expect them to come out and make some big plays, some big stops when needed to get the Saints offense in second and third and long in these passing situations where they're not really as equipped as they need to be. Like they're, yeah, as you said, they're a run, play action over the top type of team. If you can kind of stack the box and take that away, and then you take the run game away and you force them to pass in these second and third long opportunities, I think that's how you kind of slow down the offense. I don't expect them to slow it down too much as I do of the Saints scoring 27, but I have them slowing it down enough where the Eagles offense can really kind of take the lead. I have a feeling where like if the Eagles win the coin toss that they're going to elect to receive because they want to get on the board first, get the Saints out of being able to run the ball a lot.
Especially in their house. Yeah, you want to get that quieted crowd.
Yeah, put the pressure on the Saints to have to just straight up pass the ball, get them out, get them one-dimensional, and that's how you're going to be able to beat this team. And I think
they're finally not underdogs.
Yeah,
the Saints are finally not underdogs. Everyone's noticing what the Saints are. And when you have that kind of a team now, the Saints thrive in that underdog role, and the Eagles thrive in the underdog role. They're two teams cut from the same cloth. And the team that's the underdog in this game is the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why I ride with them.
Yes, so yeah, this is why I had the Eagles as my upset of the week. It's weird to say that coming into the year. I would have thought that by week 3 that the Eagles would have been favored by like 10 points over the Saints, but what a crazy 2 weeks it has been so far. A lot of things that I did not expect to happen. I mean, granted, I didn't realize that there's a Shanahan guy running the Saints offense, and I don't know if you guys heard it, if you keep a counter, but I probably talk about the Shanahan style offense at least 5 times an episode because of how good it is.
All right, hold on. Stop. Shanahan, got it. That's one.
I don't stop talking about it, and I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, if you're an NFL fan, those offenses, they got to make you feel some type of way with how they just keep getting ahead of the curve on everything. It's extremely impressive. Moving on to the next game, we have the Broncos taking on the Buccaneers.
This is my upset of the week. No, I'm kidding. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this one 31-10. I think it's going to be an absolutely brutal day for the Denver Broncos once again. I don't think it's just the defense, the offense, that's the problem in this one. I think the defense is a big problem as well. I don't think Riley Moss is going to cover whichever one of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin he ends up getting for most of this game. And that's going to be a big problem.
Godwin's a slot guy.
Well,
Godwin's he can slot, move out. And then Sertan will be on Mike Evans, but they've been using Godwin in the slot mostly, so he'll probably be on Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, still though, I don't think that they're gonna have
Chris Godwin will cook whoever he faces in the slot. So
yeah, literally. So I think that this will be a very solid game for the Broncos defense. At first, I think they'll have a solid outing, but at the same time, you can't bet against Baker Mayfield, who's looked absolutely phenomenal once again to start the season. So I think that he's going to continue to build off that. The Bucs are very hot coming in off that win against the Detroit Lions. So I do think that they're going to have a very good game again. I think Bo Nix struggles again, dude. There's just nothing really there. If there's one weakness right now, it's been the run defense because Vita Vea is gone, but you really can't run the ball either because your offensive line is just soft. It's very hard to explain other than that, but it's honestly just a sad case here for Denver. I think that they've kind of proven everybody right at this point in the week, and you see it on Bo Nix's face after the last game. I dropped back and I threw it to the other team. And I mean, yeah, I understand you're frustrated, man, but you got to play better than that. And this week you're going up against Christian Izzy and then the safety
Zion
McCollum as well. So like, come on, man, like this is your chance to finally show us what you can do. And if you can't this week, then I'm sorry, but I don't know if this is the right kind of scheme, right kind of offense, what it is, but I don't think it's going to look very good. I think they're going to lose 31-10.
Yeah, I mean, I have this as my lock of the week, which
this is my lock of the week.
Yeah, I think
Panthers do play this week.
Yeah, I know. We'll get into that game later. So right now I'm 1-1 in my locks of the week. I'm not sure what your record is. I don't know who was your lock last week. What was your lock last week? No, you're 0-2 then. Because the lock, we both had the Patriots as their lock against the Bengals the week before.
No, my lock was the Saints over the Panthers because your upset was Saints over Panthers. So I did it just.
That was not your lock. We both said it was. We both said Bengals over Patriots.
I don't know.
I'm almost positive you're 0-2.
Roll the clip. No. But yeah, that'll be fine.
Because you said you thought that there was a good chance the Panthers could win that game also.
So in other words, I'm about to be 0-3. So I'm sorry to the fans for this Buccaneers. One. Yeah, I'm sorry to the Bucs.
Yes, But I think
It's
Baker.
happening. Destiny.
I think this Baker's is about to cook up this secondary here. I'm
Okay,
gonna
bro,
go.
get the hell out. Just leave the call.
He's cooking. He is absolutely cooking. He's
But
gonna.
Goff Day was a problem.
Yes. Goff Day is so much worse. I have 27-6. I think this Broncos offense absolutely sucks because I think Bo Nix absolutely sucks. I think
I
this
only
wide
have
receiving
10
core
because
is
I think they
bad.
get a
I think
garbage
this
time
O-line's
touchdown.
bad. I don't even know about that. I just think this Denver just sucks. They have one good player. Pat Surtain might be able to shut down Mike Evans. And I agree. I think maybe through like the first quarter, the first halfway through the second, Bucks maybe only be at like 10 points. I think they can force a couple of punts, but they're just going to be on the field for so long because this Broncos offense will not be able to do anything, that they're just going to be able to get worn out. And I think the Bucks really kind of pile it on in that probably that third quarter and the second half in that area, and they run away with this game. I think it could be like a game where it's like 10-3 at half, and then it ends up being 27, 31-6, something like that. But I'm going to go with 27-6 Broncos or Buccaneers, because the Bucks have looked really good in the Broncos as I thought.
The Broncos
really,
win by
really
that much?
Yeah, and then after that happens, I'll look out the window and see pigs flying.
Yeah, right.
Moving on to our next game, we have a game that I feel bad for anyone that has to watch, the Giants and the Browns.
Man, this is just, oh, man. Well, I have 23-13 Cleveland in this one. I think the Browns offense is going to have to settle for a couple field goals. I do think Deshaun Watson's looked solid, I guess. Last week, he's kind of gotten better as the weeks have gone on. I think they'll have a solid game in this one. I think that one thing about the team they're going up against is that we're going to have a big issue with the pass defense for the New York Giants. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to get open. Not that he's probably going to catch the ball anyway, but I think Amari Cooper will save the day in this one. Of course, Elijah Moore as well in the slot.
Will Deshaun Watson be able to throw him the ball?
I do think so. I think that they'll be open enough to where like Deshaun Watson can hit that. I feel like that's the thing with Deshaun Watson.
Whoa,
he's very good at hitting open
he
places.
definitely wants to hit that. You're right. He definitely wants to hit that.
Yeah, he's very good at hitting open places. He likes it when the salons are open. So
no, he actually likes to hit those closed targets. He likes to put the ball in danger.
Yeah, he always does. But anyway, I think they get the job done. I feel like the Browns defense is going to be just fine in this one. There's really not much concern there. I think their pass defense is a very, very good unit. JOK is going to be solid in the run game as well. If Myles Garrett's not good to go, then I still think they're fine regardless.
Yeah,
I think
Garrett
he does
not play.
Yeah, he was questionable, but I think he plays. I think he's been upgraded to probably I don't even know.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. The smart thing they should do then, since he's not 100%, is basically just make sure that Andrew Thomas can't block him, because him at 30% will kill Evan Neal. I think with one arm he could probably destroy Evan Neal.
Yeah. There's a 95% chance. So I have them winning by 10. I feel like this game gets a little bit stupider. Like at the end, I feel like it's just one of those games where you're gonna kind of see the Giants start off a little bit stronger. They're probably gonna get the lead early, and then the Browns are gonna come back and win because the Browns so far have just looked pretty bad. But I feel like they're gonna get the job done. It's the New York Giants, man. I can't see them winning a football game at this point until they play the Panthers. But for that being said, I think they win
for a game that no one will watch. That game starts at 6:30 in the morning, and I will be fast asleep for the entire game.
Yes, me too.
Yes. For me, I have the score prediction being 16-7 Browns. Again, both offenses suck, but the difference is that the Browns offense is just a little bit better, and then the Browns defense is a lot better than the Giants defense. Even though I think the Giants defense, as underwhelming as they've been, I still think they're decent. The Browns have a top 5 defense in the league, and I mean, Myles Garrett is going to probably wreak havoc as long as he's not against Andrew Thomas. And then it doesn't matter. Basically, everyone who's not facing Andrew Thomas is going to wreak havoc against Daniel Jones, and we know what happens when Daniel Jones gets any ounce of pressure. He throws it to the other team a lot of times. I mean, and then the Browns do have a really good secondary with Denzel Ward, with Grant Delpit, with why can't I think of his name? They're Martin Emerson, with other corner. I'm blanking on his name. Greg Newsome? Yes. I get him and Tyson Campbell mixed up a lot. That's why I was
the only one I get Greg Newsome mixed up with the Greedy Williams. That's why I get them mixed up.
Yes, because they were on
Because
the
they
same
both play
team.
with the same team.
Yeah, just Greedy Williams sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nowhere to be found anymore. But anyways, yeah,
Where's
there's not
Hassan
really
Reddick?
much to say about this game because this game is going to be very boring, and you'd have to pay me money to watch this game. Except for actually, I am starting Browns defense, in a couple of leagues, so maybe I'll watch just so I can see Myles Garrett get 5 sacks on whoever he's facing. Moving
Nice.
on, we have the Bears and the Colts.
I'm not sure if this is going to count as my upset of the week, but this would be my upset of the week. If it is true, I have the Chicago Bears winning this football game.
Okay, Indy is favored.
20-17.
Actually, wait, this doesn't make sense. Chicago's favored on the money line, but Indy's favored by 1 on the spread. Let me go to FanDuel. Check this out because ESPN it has Indy -1, but then Chicago -105 on the money line. So that doesn't really make any sense there.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's backwards. But while you're doing that, I'm going to
okay. And FanDuel, it's Chicago plus 1.5, and yep, they're -104, but Indy's -112. So it's one of those.
So this is my upset.
Yep, this can be considered your upset.
All right.
You also took the Eagles though.
Yeah,
you want to consider this your upset though?
I don't want to pick the same one as you. I feel like that's
you could have also picked the Chargers too.
Right.
Yeah, but if this is the one you want to be, that's fine.
I think that the Chicago Bears get it done. I think this is finally the game where the offense can put it together a little bit. There's one thing about this Chicago Bears team that sucks. It's the offensive line. And without DeForest Buckner, without Grover Stewart, I think that this is the game that can finally run the football, kind of run the offense the way they want to. One team in the NFL that runs a lot of zone coverage, 81% of the time, according to the defensive coordinator numbers last week when he was playing. I think that one thing that's huge for this game is if they run a lot of zone coverage like they like to do, that's Caleb Williams' sweet spot. That's what he can do. We saw him on Sunday Night Football dotting up the Texans defense every time they came out in zone. The only time he was actually a competent quarterback. And I think that without all the pressure this week, being able to run the ball up the middle, beating on a Colts team that's not fully healthy. They don't know if Pittman's going to play in this one. Josh Downs is back, but how much is he going to be limited? But still, honestly, you got Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson in the secondary. You got very good corners. I mean, against a beat up Josh Downs, and then you got safety help with Jaquan Brisker as well. So. And Kevin Byard.
I mean, this Bears defense is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, this Bears defense is going to be able to hold them. I think they're going to force a couple turnovers. They're going to win this one 20-17 is my final score. I think it's very close, but I do think they get it done finally. They're going to prove what they can do in this game because they're not going up against a team that can really rush the passer like they have to. They're not going to be able to get to Caleb Williams, not going to be able to stop the run. You looked at it last week against Josh Jacobs when they knew they were going to run the ball. Like, it's Malik Willis at quarterback. Obviously, they're going to run the ball a lot. This week, you got Caleb Williams. It's a little bit more dicey. You never know if he's going to throw or run the ball. I think that's going to be the thing that wins them this football game. They win in a last-second field goal as well, most likely. 2017, my upset of the week. Chicago takes down Indy. Indy drops 3rd of the season already.
Yeah, for me, this basically the Chicago Bears offensive line versus this Colts D-line is what I like to call a stoppable force versus a movable object. Because the Bears have the worst interior offensive line I've ever laid my eyes on. It's so pathetically bad that I could probably block better than whoever's in there. I don't know any of their names because Ryan Bates is injured, but all 3 of them suck and should be caught immediately. But again,
the XFL.
Yeah, I don't know if they could block there. They're so bad. I mean, did you see in week 1 the center got bull rushed by a linebacker? An off-ball linebacker bull rushed him. Like, he should not have been able to leave the stadium. He should not have been allowed back in the stadium after he left. Should have had to pack his bags and get out then. But they're still starting him somehow. I don't know who his name is. He just sucks. But then the Colts D-line, especially without Buckner and Stewart, I mean, Kwity Paye hasn't really taken that stop. He hasn't really looked great this year. And then the linebackers, they're good when they have good D tackles in front of them, but they're not good enough to overcome bad D tackles. So I really don't know what to expect out of that battle. I expect it to be very bad. I really don't know. But I do think the Colts win this game just because I love Anthony Richardson and I have him in fantasy in a lot of leagues, so I need good numbers out of him. But I'll go with 24-20. I think Caleb Williams does look a lot better in this game without having to face pressure every single time he drops back like he has the last 2 weeks. and then he's getting more used to it. I mean, he looked really bad week 1. He looked a little bit better in week 2. I think he'll continue with that as a rookie. He'll continue to grow. He'll be able to read these things. Again, facing a much worse D-line in a pass rush, it'll help open things up a lot more for him. He won't be running for his life. But at the same time, this Bears defense has looked really good. But Anthony Richardson's that up and down quarterback. He had a down game last week. I expect an up game this week. So give me 24-20 Colts. And then moving on, we have that Panthers game we alluded to earlier as the Las Vegas Raiders are taking on the Carolina Panthers.
Realistically, I'm just going to throw my score prediction out there right now, and it's 24-10. I think with Andy Dalton playing, they finally can get a touchdown pass this season for somebody, probably Deontay Johnson or maybe Leggett, I guess. Hopefully. But I don't know. I think they'll have a solid game offensively. It won't be anything bad. I just feel like they're one of those teams that as soon as they get across the 50-yard line, the Raiders' defense has been very, very good. That if you look at last week against the Ravens, they were allowing them to get across the 50-yard line, but as soon as they did, they were just stopping them instantly. They would not budge any farther than that. They were bending but not breaking every single time. I think that happens a lot in this game. I think that they're going to be able to finally break through and get one touchdown, but the Raiders have looked good. They're bouncing. They're coming off a very big upset last week against the Ravens for many people. Think that this is going to be a game where they can just continue to beat up on a worse opponent and get the job done. So give me them in a pretty uneventful, boring game. 24-10, Raiders win.
Yeah, this game for me screams trap game. I mean, Panthers have looked like the worst team in NFL history through 2 weeks. The Raiders just came off a huge win against the Ravens. And again, it is the Raiders. So, yeah, as you can ask many Raiders fans, they don't really have many good things happen. And when they do, they somehow find a way to ruin it. So I could totally see the Panthers winning this game. However, the Panthers do suck. Andy Dalton, I think, will be better than Bryce Young, but I am not sure. But I will go 27-17. I don't expect the Panthers to be able to stop much, but I do think Andy Dalton will be able to push the ball down the field, and this Panthers offense will look a little bit more like an actual NFL offense instead of a Pee-wee offense without having a Pee-wee quarterback back there. I think Andy Dalton, will push it down the field.
He's tall for his age.
Deontay Johnson should have better games. Xavier Leggett, I'm still not a big fan of him. I don't expect too much out of him, but I do expect Andy Dalton to be able to hit a lot of Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, like finding soft spots against man. They're both good receivers and getting open. And then defensively, the Panthers defense sucks. I expect the Raiders to really be able to have their way. I mean, they dropped 26 on the Ravens. 27 should be pretty obtainable against this bad Panthers defense because they actually should be able to get the run game going. Since the Panthers' rush defense is like the worst ever. I mean, they've just getting absolutely gashed the last 2 weeks. So I expect the combo of Zamir White, Alexander Mattison to have a decent game, which should open up that play action, which should really allow Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams to truly cook up this team. So I expect the offense to really be moving, but I think Andy Dalton has a decent game to keep them in. I could see a world where the Panthers win, but I'm definitely not betting any money on it. I'm definitely picking the Raiders to win this game. Moving on to the next 4 o'clock game, we have the Dolphins facing the Seahawks.
So I've seen a lot of people saying that Huntley's going to start. I don't think so. They're going to go with Skylar Thompson.
They already said Skylar Thompson starting.
Yeah, a lot of people were speculating throughout the week, but I think that this is going to be – yeah, exactly. But I think that this is going to be a weird game. It's going to be in between. I'm not sold on the Seahawks. They've played literally 2 of the worst teams in the league so far to start their season, and the Broncos and the Patriots.
That's how the Dolphins are without Tua.
Yeah, and now they got the Dolphins without Tua. So realistically, I think that they're going to win this one. This is one they got to win. Like, you're going up against a backup quarterback who can't really throw the ball too well. I think that this is going to be a game where they're going to be able to rattle them. And my score prediction is 21-13. The only reason I have it being so close is I think that Dolphins defense can finally kind of tighten up. One thing that you've seen them get gashed in all season so far is the run game. If you look at week 1, Travis Etienne was eating them alive until he fumbled near the goal line. James Cook last week obviously went nuts on him. Josh Allen didn't have to do much of anything. This is a game right here where you're not going to have Kenneth Walker playing. You're going to have to rely on Zach Charbonnet. I think this is a game where they can finally stop the run and force Geno Smith to throw the ball, which I don't think he'll be bad. I just don't think that they're going to score as many points as people are expecting them to score. And another big thing here that, oh my gosh, that's going to be a pick six. But, yeah, it's a pick six for Stanford. But anyway, to kind of finish off what I was saying
so
here.
Good this year. I only see them having 3 losses.
Okay, man. This is one of those 3 losses. 21-13, I think. Seahawks win. I think Skylar Thompson can hit a few dinks and dunks. I think he'll help him get down the field. Same with Waddle. But you're going up against Tariq Woolen and Devon Witherspoon, who I think are 2 of the best corners in the game, on both being on the same team. They're going to shut him down most of the time. And that's what's going to be the big deciding factor in this one for Seattle's win in week 3. The softest schedule in the entire league, and I don't care what anyone has to say.
Yeah, give me the Seahawks 24-14. I expect them to dominate this game. I do expect like a garbage touchdown, like it's 24-7, and then they get a garbage touchdown, hopefully to Jalen Waddle, but that's beside the point. I think this Dolphins defense can't stop the run. Their D-line is just not that good. And the Seahawks offensive line, I mean, Charles Cross has been insane, but the rest of the line's kind of struggled. But they looked a little bit better last week. Even without Kenny Walker, I think they'll be able to get the run game going. Charbonnet did have a pretty good game last week. He has a decent running back. And then I think the play action off that, Gino's really going to be able to hit like Tyler Lockett and JSN. I think DK doesn't have a great game going against Jalen Ramsey. I wonder if there's a bet. Wonder if you can bet on them fighting, because I just have a feeling it's going to happen.
It's Jalen Ramsey and DK, so yeah.
Exactly. So I've seen the memes. It's like something going on, and then Jalen Ramsey and DK fighting 40 yards down the field. I could totally see that.
Yeah, this is literally the Sherman and Smith fighting.
Sherman and Crabtree.
Yeah, it's Sherman and Crabtree too, but I'm saying Sherman.
Try me with a sorry ass receiver like that. That's the result you're gonna get. It's one of the greatest quotes of all time.
Yeah, literally. Or how about Trent Williams punching somebody in the middle of the
and then every Browns player just like ran away. They're like, "Oh no, you're good. We're good. Don't touch
bro.
me.
We don't want the smoke, bro."
Yeah. But yeah, I just think the Dolphins dominate this. Or why do I keep mixing up my teams? The Seahawks. I think they dominate this game.
Yeah, the Dolphins are gonna dominate.
I mean, I think the Dolphins suck without Tua. That's not making me think Tua's good. I just think Tua fits that system extremely well. And now they bring in a quarterback who doesn't fit the system really well. And
well, I mean, they built the system around him, so it makes sense.
Yeah, they built the system around Tua to his strength. So yeah, he looks good in the system, but I still don't think he's a great quarterback. But now that they have a quarterback who isn't Tua to not fit that system, who just isn't good at all, even with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike McDaniel, and Devon Achane and all these.
You were talking about trap games. This is my trap game of the week. I think that if there's going to be any team that I don't expect to win, it's going to be the Dolphins.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just don't really see it, because this Dolphins offensive line is also really bad. And I mean, you got like Boye Mafe and Byron Murphy, I think, could have some pretty good games behind this terrible Dolphins offensive line.
Yeah, but if you look at it on the Seahawks side of things, man, their run defense really hasn't been that great to start the season. That's why the Patriots kept it close. And if you look at this kind of a game, they're probably not going to throw the ball that much, considering it's Skylar Thompson. They're probably going to run the ball like with Achane.
So they're probably going to load the box. Part of the reason why they run.
But that's when you beat them over the top with Hill.
Yes, but Skylar Thompson sucks. Part of the reason
he's
why
got to hit one 30-yard throw, and he's an NFL quarterback. I think he can do it.
Yeah, well, I don't really. So I think the Seahawks are going to be able to.
I'm advocating for the Dolphins. This is disgusting.
It's crazy. I think the Seahawks are going to be able to stack the box and put more pressure on the run game like teams normally can't, due to the fact that there's Tua. And because of that, it'll slow down the run game, and then you try and hit it over the top, and Skylar Thompson just sucks. But you're saying that against like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen are some of the fastest corners in the NFL. So if any cornerback duo is going to be able to keep up with Waddle and Tyreek Hill, it's going to be that cornerback duo. So
no, I don't think they won't, but I'm just saying.
So I think it's going to be where you'd have to have a perfectly placed ball that Skylar Thompson just can't do because he sucks. So I get what you're saying about this being a trap game. A lot of signs point to it, but I just think the Dolphins suck without Tua. And I think the Seahawks, even though they haven't looked great, I still think are a decent team, and I think they take care of business here.
I think at the end of this week they have half their wins for the season. Anyway, continue.
That's crazy. Moving on to the next game, we have Ravens taking on the Cowboys.
This is a game where both teams have to win. This is one of those games where these two teams are going to come out and they're going to play like hell, because this is one of these ones that early in the season, you don't want to drop 3 in a row if you're Baltimore. They have never been 0-3 in the gym. Jesus, I've done it twice now. The John Harbaugh era. And then on top of that, for the Dallas Cowboys to lose back-to-back regular season games at home is something they're not used to doing. Obviously, their only good time of the year is the regular season for Dallas. So realistically, this is one of those moments where you expect them to play solid, play a very good game, but I don't think they're going to be able to. I think this is going to be one of those ones where the Ravens finally get on track and they're going to get the win. 24-17 is my prediction. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to come down to the wire, but I trust Lamar Jackson more than Dak Prescott in this situation. I'm so sorry to say that because it's just disgusting coming out of my mouth considering it's Lamar Jackson. But I do think that he can get the job done.
Here we go.
Yeah, we really suck. But I think that they're going to lose this one.
We fucking blow.
I do think that Baltimore is going to win this one, though. I think even though the defense has been very bruised and battered, especially this last week, Marlon Humphrey was questionable as well. So there's a lot of different things that you got to factor in here. I think Wiggins is going to come back for this game, which is promising. But this is a tough start to the season.
I didn't think he was practicing this week. At least maybe he was today, but I'm pretty sure the original report. I think he was do not practice the first.
He was the couple days, but I do think they're going to get the job done regardless. I think this is just one of those games where you have to have it if you're Baltimore. Starting 0-3 in the loaded AFC, you may not be able to recover. And they know that. They're going to come out with a lot of fire. John Harbaugh, someone I trust way more than Mike McCarthy as well. So give me the Ravens in this one, 24-17.
Yep, I also agree. This is a classic where the teams are pretty good on talent. Like they both have similar levels of talent. So I'm going to take the team where I trust the quarterback and the coaching more. And that's the Ravens. I'm going to go 23-20 because Lamar is better than Dak and John Harbaugh is way better than Mike McCarthy. And Todd Monken's better than, I don't know who's the offensive coordinator there. Like I just trust this Ravens team a lot more. I mean, they were a toe away from almost beating the Chiefs. Yes, they dropped the game they shouldn't have against the Raiders, but the Cowboys just got absolutely embarrassed by the Saints, losing by, 25? I mean, at least the Ravens' 2 losses were by a combined 10 points. The Cowboys lost by 2.5 times that amount in one game. Like, I just think that the Ravens are a deeper team, even though they're not nearly as good as last year. The Cowboys are just so star heavy. The Ravens can match up with those stars, but then they have better depth, better coaching, better quarterback. I mean, even though it's in Dallas, I think that's the only reason why this game stays close. Because Dallas usually plays better at home, not last week. But I think coming off getting gashed like that, I think they do come out and play better. I think Micah Parsons will have a really good game against this bad Ravens offensive line. But at the end of the day, I don't think it'll matter, as I think Lamar will be able to get the job done. Moving on, we have the Lions and the Cardinals.
This one is another one of those games where I think, comparing it to last week, where I thought the Lions-Bucks game was going to be an absolute shootout, I was like, okay, there's no way in heck this isn't a shootout. These two quarterbacks have looked great. The teams have looked amazing. And then here we are in the same situation this week. This time, I think it actually is a shootout. Neither of these teams can really kind of go back and forth with their records too much right now. But right now, you have to get a win if you're Detroit. I'm sorry. I understand. The Cardinals look pretty good this year. They kept it close with Buffalo. They beat up on the very, very bruised Rams. But I think that this is a game where if you're Detroit, to lose back-to-back games to start the year, it's a bit of a panic thing. Obviously, if Jared Goff has another off day, I think that this is going to be a game that you kind of hit that panic button. Yeah, exactly. But I do think that they get the job done in this one. And my final score prediction is 34-24. I think the Lions defense tightens up a couple times more than the Cardinals defense can. And they're going to get a big, big win here. Goff's going to bounce back from his bad game, and they're going to get the job done by 10 points, 34-24 in AZ.
Give me also the Lions, but I think it's going to be a lot closer, being it is in Arizona, and Kyler that offense has looked really good to start the year. I mean, they looked really good on fire against the Bills to start that game. The Bills defense tightened up, but I think that's more about the Bills defense than the Cardinals offense. And then last week against a Rams defense who looked decent, the Rams defense who looked decent week 1, they absolutely they up and down the scoreboard with them. This Cardinals offense, I think, is legit. The reason I'm going to take the Lions is because that Cardinals running game is still god-awful. And the Lions, what are they built off of? An extremely good run game behind the best offensive line in football, the best running back duo in football. And then Goff's not a great straight drop back passer where he has to read a defense. And then like an Aaron Rodgers, he's definitely not. When he's forced to do something like that, like he kind of was in this Bucs game, this is where bad things happen. He throws the 2 picks. Against the Cardinals, I don't expect it at all because I expect the Lions to be able to run it down their throats. And then that's where the play action deep bomb to JMO the play action over the middle to Laporta or St. Brown, and that's where he starts to pick apart teams. That's where Goff is really, really good, is those play actions where he has like a crosser or a streak and he gets to use his accuracy, because he is a very accurate quarterback to hit one of those. So I expect that to happen a lot. I think this Lions offense gets back on board after a rough week 2 against the Bucks, and I think they take care of business, because I think they're just the more talented team, and I trust the coaching staff more. And that's really where it comes down to. Moving on, we have the 49ers coming off an upset against the Vikings, and that injury-riddled Rams team that you just mentioned.
27-13, 49ers dominate this entire game. I was going to do 6, but I'm a little bit nicer of a person. I think that they're going to have a terrible game this week. If there's anything good about the 49ers right now, it's that defense still. Obviously, the thing that they've been struggling with is the offense. I think this is going to be not the same old shootout 49ers-Rams that we're used to. I think we're going to finally see one of these games where it's just very god-awful on the offensive side of the ball. Stafford is not going to have any time to throw. He has almost no one to throw the football to. Kyren Williams is not going to be able to run the ball if no Nick Bosa plays. And on top of that, you have Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle all not playing in this next game. Man, who do you throw the ball to if you're Purdy as well? Ayuk and then Jennings.
Yes, please throw it to Brandon Ayuk. I have you in fantasy.
I have him in fantasy
please too. Throw to Brandon Ayuk.
The thing is, though, with Ayuk and Jennings here, the thing is that's really big for me is which team has the better offensive skill position players in this game, and it's going to be the 49ers by a mile. If I'm trusting anybody, it's Ayuk, not like DeMarcus Robinson. Like, that's just not happening, man. And I do think that they'll play a solid game. I think that the 49ers have owned Sean McVay to this point. And I think that, yeah, they have. If you look at their record, like Sean McVay's barely won against the 49ers.
I thought it was the other way around.
No, it's Sean McVay who gets owned for whatever reason.
Except for in the playoffs.
Except for in the playoffs.
Last year.
They won one game in the playoffs because Jimmy Garoppolo sucks. But I do think that this is one of those games for the 49ers. They want to bounce back. And if you looked at last season, their last regular season loss was to the Minnesota Vikings. So just want to throw that out there. I think they're going to have a very solid bounce back after that loss to Minnesota, which was eerily similar to the game last season.
Oh, yeah, Shanahan's 10-5 against McVay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, man.
For some reason, I thought it was the other way around. I thought McVay always had Shanahan's number.
Yeah, no, but I think Shanahan gets this one again. 27-13 is my score prediction.
Give me 23-13. I think that, or actually 23-14. I think that the Rams with Stafford, even though he doesn't have much to work with, do enough to kind of keep them in the game-ish. But at the same time, they're just so beaten up. And the 49ers just have a better roster right now by a lot. The coaching's kind of a wash. Even though Shanahan usually beats McVay, I still think they're basically equal levels. So I put the wash at coaching. The quarterback, really the only advantage the Rams have is they have the better quarterback. Basically everywhere else the Niners beat them, even though the Niners have been dealing with their own injuries, just because the Rams are that brittle and that have that many injuries. I mean, their entire offensive line and their top 2 receivers are all gone, and that's basically their entire offense besides Stafford.
One of their D linemen's out as well. So.
Yeah, and then even more injuries. And then they're starting Wash Trey White. I mean, hopefully Brandon Ayuk can cook him like Marv did last week, but that's besides the point. But I think 23-13, again, Purdy I don't think is a great quarterback. Not having Deebo, Kittle, or Christian McCaffrey I think really hurts him as like a quarterback. But I don't think this Rams defense is great, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball. Jordan Mason's going to have a big game, and he's going to be able to hit Ayuk when needed. Juwan Jennings, I think, will have a couple of big catches. He seems to always have a couple of clutch third down catches, so I expect that to continue. But yeah, I mean, I don't really see a way that the Rams win this, but I do see a way that they keep it close. So yeah, 23-14, 49ers. Moving on to our next game. That was the last of the 4 o'clock, so moving on to the Sunday night game. We got the Falcons against the Chiefs. I will just probably watch this game with the commentating off because I don't feel like listening to Chris Collinsworth absolutely gargle Pat Mahomes' balls.
Man, I want to throw it out here right now. I think that the Falcons' defense is very good. One way you can beat the Chiefs is if you run the ball to the outside. Their defensive ends are not that great. George Karlaftis gets bullied a lot this season. We've seen it all day. The only thing he was really good at Purdue was his pass rushing skills. So kind of seeing that come into full effect here in this game. Bijan, if they run the ball correctly to the outside, run the ball down their throats here, keeping Mahomes on the sideline, I think that this is going to be a very solid game. I think the Falcons are going to be in it for all 60 minutes, but it is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs offense is going to look solid again in this game. I think Travis Kelce can finally get involved, considering there's not a good linebacker on that defense, really, outside of maybe Judon if he plays linebacker. I think
Judon's more of just a pass rusher.
Exactly. So I think this is finally the game where we see him get into it and get going, Travis Kelce, that being. And I think the Chiefs are going to win this one 28-20 by the skin of their teeth, though. I think that the Falcons hold the lead going into the fourth quarter, and Mahomes pulls off a comeback of some kind. And just like they run the ball down their throats, Mahomes is going to have his dick down Chris Collinsworth's throat. I think this is going to be one of those games, man. It's unfortunate.
So here's a guy that I suck his balls.
So here's a guy that really, he can just make every throw. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, we know.
He can really fit into every hole. I know from experience.
Yeah, literally, right? But
like that dude on TikTok, I keep seeing him all over the place.
Yeah,
so
literally.
Funny.
I think that the Chiefs win this one, which it's a little unfortunate, obviously being in the AFC, but I think that they have a solid game.
Yeah, give me the Chiefs for 2 words. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, yeah. I'm not really. You really want to call me a Patrick Mahomes dick rider? Are you kidding me? I hate.
So here's
Patrick
a guy.
Mahomes. Yeah. So here's the guy that's gonna kick your ass if you keep talking.
Right.
But no, I just it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, primetime Kirk. I don't think he continues to play like he did against.
Absolute legend last week, Kirk O'Chains.
I think normal primetime Kirk shows up. Usually it's only Thursday night primetime is when he plays decent. I mean, I guess he played decent on Monday night, but that was like for the first time ever. Sunday night Kirk is also usually pretty shitty. So I don't expect them against the Chiefs defense, who hasn't looked great this year, but still has Chris Jones.
Trent I remember McDuffie, that Bears game a couple years ago. He just chucked one deep and it was picked. Like no one even close.
Exactly. So I expect that this Chiefs defense to kind of hold the Falcons in check. I expect Bijan to have a big game because, I mean, he's been really good so far this year, besides not scoring a touchdown. But that's besides the point. I mean, he's on pace for 2,000 scrimmage yards and 0 touchdowns this year. So I wonder if that's like a Falcons way of just not giving it to their star players in the end zone. I mean, Julio's entire career never got a lot of touchdowns. Kyle Pitts never has gotten many touchdowns. Now Bijan's not getting any touchdowns. Like,
just give it to Tyler Algier.
Yeah. I don't really understand it. It's extremely frustrating, but I think Bijan has a big game, and I think that kind of keeps the Falcons in this. But at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs' offense behind Patrick Mahomes will just make the plays when needed in the fourth quarter. And I think the Falcons can hold this lead like 20-17, and then Patrick Mahomes leaves on a touchdown drive with like 45 seconds left, and then the Falcons aren't able to recreate what they did last time. So give me 24-20 Chiefs. Then moving on, we will skip the next game and move on to because we have more to talk about that game. We'll move on to Commanders versus Bengals.
Yeah, I think this is going to be pretty much over by halftime. Trey Hendrickson's going to feast on this Washington offensive line. You saw what he did last week against Suma Mataya, who is the rookie out of BYU. I do think that he's going to have a solid game again this week against Sam Cosmi, who I believe he'll probably be matched up against. I have the Bengals winning 24-13. Finally, Joe Burrow is going to get back into the mix. He's going to finally be fully healthy, ready to go. Better than week 3 of last year when they beat the Rams. That's when they finally started to figure it out last season. I think it's the exact same situation this year. I think Burrow has a good game. Higgins is on pace to make his first start of the year. I think Chase is finally going to be good. So, yeah, there's going to be a very good offensive explosion from them. I think Jaden Daniels probably runs the ball a lot, go figure. But I do think that they'll have a solid game in the first half-ish. But I do think that 24-13 Cincinnati gets the job done. That offense is going to look great, and they're going to win this one pretty convincingly considering how bad that Washington defense is, especially the secondary, man. I'm
just shocked you think the Bengals – I'm shocked you only think the Bengals dropped 24. I mean, if the Giants had a kicker, they would have dropped 21. My prediction is that Jamar Chase will have a game like he did against the Cardinals last year. That's my prediction. No, Score prediction 35-14 Bengals, 35-17 actually, where it's 35-10 and the Commanders just get a garbage touchdown at the end. I think the Bengals absolutely dominate this game. I mean, the Commanders have the worst secondary in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think Jamar Chase, even though T. Higgins won't be healthy, I think Jamar Chase and
Panthers?
T. Higgins. No, I think I think the Commanders is worse than the Panthers. The Panthers' run defense is so bad that it puts more pressure in their secondary. But I think overall secondary, the Commanders.
Same with pass rush is pretty bad.
Well, yeah, at least the Commanders have like a decent front seven, a decent like D line. The Panthers, their D line is so awful that it makes their secondary look worse than it is. But I think pure secondary, I think that the Commanders have a worse secondary. Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes are just god awful. I think Jamar Chase.
Kendall Fuller is way past his prime.
I thought Kendall Fuller was. Oh, it was Kyle Fuller that went to Miami. For some reason, I thought it was Kendall.
Yeah, it's Kyle Fuller.
Kendall Fuller. Kendall
Fuller did play in Miami at one point.
But yeah, I think Andre Yoshevich continues to have a decent game. I think Mike Gesicki dominates those terrible linebackers. I think Zach Moss might be able to get it going a little bit. I just expect this offense to finally wake up. They looked a lot better against the Chiefs last week, and I expect just a dominating win out of them, a statement win on Monday night, even though no one will be watching that game because of the other game that will be taking place in Orchard Park at 7:30 on Monday. I will be there at the game to watch the Bills absolutely dominate. No, I'm kidding. Beat the Jaguars. I think this game does stay close as the Jaguars have had our number recently. And this does kind of scream trap game a little bit. The Bills do fall into a lot of trap games. Unfortunately, in years past, this team might be different. I think it is. I think we do win this game. I'm going with 24-20. What are your thoughts on this game?
I'm sorry, but this is very, very, very eerily similar to the series we've had with the Tennessee Titans, and I will live and die on this hill. I've already mentioned this to you.
Playing at home this time.
Yes, but here's the thing.
That's my difference.
Here's the thing for the viewer, man. For the viewers, this is a very, very big game for the Buffalo Bills here. We're heading into the game right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars need this game desperately as well. The Buffalo Bills know that. They're not going to come in slouching like they have in years past against the Jags. Like, oh, we saw the Jags that one year in 2021. They were garbage that season, and we were one of their only 2 wins that entire year. This is not going to be one of those games. We're not going to let them come in and walk all over us. It's at home. And if you look against the Titans, we lost back-to-back games against the Tennessee Titans as well in the exact same fashion. The one on Tuesday night where we got blown out. And finally, the next season when we played them on Monday Night Football of Week 2, we absolutely blew them out of the water. And you know where that was? In Orchard Park in Buffalo, New York. You know where the game is tomorrow night? I mean, on Monday night. How am I thinking? The one on Monday night, it's in Orchard Park, New York. Buffalo is going to win this game 31-21. They're going to dominate from start to finish. I only have the Jags keeping it close because I think the one thing that they can do well is the one thing we can't do well on defense, and that's stop the run. I think that ETN's going to have a solid game. They're probably going to beat us over the top for a touchdown at some point, which sucks to say, but I think we win this game by 10.
We're the best team in the league by preventing those plays. Why would you think that's going to happen?
Because ETN's going to get the ball 30 times, and then we're finally going to slip up once, and it's one time. It's eventually going to happen. All good things come to an end, and I think that it could end this week. I'm not saying it's a definitive thing, obviously, but I think that we dominate for most of this game. Josh Allen's going to look great again. I think that the Buffalo Bills are going to get a big win on prime time, whatever you want to say, and we're going to move to 3-0 with a big win against Jacksonville at home, despite all the people thinking that this is finally going to be where the Bills' run comes to an end.
See, I disagree that like people are like, oh, the Jaguars have their way. Those games aren't the ones that take place in Buffalo. The last time we played the Jaguars in Buffalo was 2018. We won that game. It's when it happens in Jacksonville is when we seem to struggle. Like I think people forget that. They're like, oh, Josh Hines Allen owns Josh Allen. Well, yeah, that was when he was facing Cody Ford. I could probably dominate Cody Ford. He is god awful. He's the worst lineman I've ever watched play football. He's absolutely sucks. He is absolutely terrible. That's why Josh Allen was able to get after him. Now he's facing Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, who have statistically been the best pass blocking tackle duo in the league through 2 weeks. They haven't faced the greatest competition. Injured or not healthy Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb wasn't there for Miami, and then the Cardinals don't really have much. So we haven't faced much competition, but they have been statistically the best pass blocking duo tackle duo in the league this year. They're both like top 5, top 10 in like pass blocking win rate and success rate. They've been absolutely dominant in that fashion. So I don't expect their pass rush that the Jaguars really hang their hat on to really get after Josh that much. And even if they do, I mean, that's Josh. Honestly, that's Josh's best quality is his ability to break sacks. Like last year, we were only 10th in like pressure rate allowed or whatever, and Josh was number 1 in sacks allowed. Like even though we were only the 10th best line in allowing pressure, he was the number 1 quarterback in like amount of sacks taken, like the lowest amount, because he was able to break out of so many sacks. His pocket presence is absolutely elite. It's the most underrated portion of his game. Yes, he does have some blunders against the Cardinals week 1. He had the one. But for the most part, his ability to really sniff out when a guy's coming, and even if he hits him, still just break out of it, run out, and just make some crazy play because he's Superman. Because I do expect that this run game, which I think they'll be fine, but they won't be like I don't think we're going to be able to run the ball as well we did against the Dolphins or Cardinals, because the Jaguars do have a pretty decent run defense. I think we'll be able to have a good enough run game where like our offense will be able to continue like to be good, but I don't expect it like where we have these big gashes, because what they're good at is basically not allowing the big plays in the run game. They'll allow you to get 2, 3, 4 yards, but they're not going to allow much out after that. So I expect where we're going to get a lot of like second, third, and like short and mediums where it's like, okay, Josh, go make a play, and then he does.
Right.
That's why, especially against this hurt Jag secondary, that's without their only really good secondary piece in Tyson Campbell. Everyone else is a bunch of I mean, there's not much great there. So I expect the Bills receivers to have a good game. I think Dalton Kincaid finally has his breakout game against, because the Jaguars, I mean, Foyesad's a really good, he's a tackling machine and great in the run game. He's
Devin
not,
Lloyd.
Devin Lloyd. They're not great pass coverage guys. They're great in the run. They can get a lot of tackles, but they're not good pass coverage. So I expect we kind of used Dalton Kincaid more against Miami. It's just we didn't really have to do much in the second half. So his numbers didn't really get to where we thought they could have been. But I mean, he had like 4 catches for 40 yards in the first half alone. So I think Joe Brady's going to try and implement more of those like flat route screens that I really love seeing out of Kincaid, where on like first down, like a quick play action, like a RPO, where we can either hand it off to Cook or hit the flat to Kincaid, and then he has like a Mac Hollins and Shakir in front of him blocking, and he gets like 8 to 10 yards. So it's either a new fresh set of downs, or it's now 2nd and 2 where we really open up the playbook. We could go hit a deep shot, run the ball. We can do whatever we want from 2nd and 2. And I think we see a lot more of that. And just as we've seen the little dink and dunk down the field, and then eventually we'll be able to hit a deep shot or 2 over the safety duo that's just not very good. That's why my personal bet, I have Josh over 200 passing yards and 2 or more passing touchdowns, because I think he has a very, very good game. Similar to the Cardinals game, not because we need him to win. Absolutely. I just think because he's that good. So yeah, 24-20. I could see us blowing. I could see a Titans game where we win 35-17 or something and absolutely blow them out of the water. But because the Bills' history has shown me that they like to have a lot of trap games, especially after big wins, I just want to say it's going to be a close game, just because like the last 5 years have shown me anything. It's happened too many times, sadly. I'm hoping it doesn't. The Bills fan of me wants to say we just absolutely dominate them, but I'm going to say it's just going to be a close game. For right now, hopefully we do win by 20 points, because those are always so much fun. So that is it for the NFL segment. We're going to move now into some college football, as we didn't really talk too much college football the last 2 weeks because there wasn't really that many great games. It's starting to heat up now. These next couple of weeks are looking really good. I mean, this week we have Nebraska, Illinois going on right now. Nebraska's up 17-10. We have USC, Michigan. We have Utah, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kansas State, BYU, Syracuse, Stanford for Thomas. And then next week's also supposed to be really good. Illinois, Penn State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Auburn, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Louisville, Georgia, Bama, like Arizona, Utah. These next couple weeks leading up to like October 12th and October 19th were supposed to be 2 really, really good weeks. So the college football season is really starting to heat up. So we got a decent amount of games to talk to about this week. First, we'll talk about the game that's going on right now. Nebraska is up 17-10 on Illinois. Illinois does have 2nd and 10 at Nebraska's 47 right now. There's 5:05 left in the third. How do you think this game plays out?
I think that Illinois is going to drive down and get a field goal on this drive, but I think that Nebraska is going to eventually close this one out. 24-13 is my official prediction. I don't think Illinois is going to get the ball too much down the field for the rest of this game. I think Nebraska's looked great. Dylan Raiola, the Patrick Mahomes wannabe dude. I mean,
he's got right now Raiola 17 for 25, 185, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah, he's looked solid
for tonight.
Yeah, he's looked solid, I guess. Then I mean, the interception kind of taints that a little bit, but solid game.
It could have been a bad interception. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no clue. I've been watching Syracuse all night, so I have no clue. But I do think that they're going to end up getting the job done. Nebraska's looked legit so far. That defense is truly different, and then Dylan Raiola has kept the offense afloat for most of the season so far. So give me Nebraska to hold on there.
Yeah, I think Nebraska wins this game 27-20. I do agree. I think Illinois gets a field goal on this possession. Then I think Nebraska drives down, gets a touchdown, kind of puts the game away. Then I think they get another field goal, and then I think Illinois gets a garbage touchdown at the end to make it a 1-score game. But I really think it's more of like I think
if anything, they probably get a touchdown, and then Nebraska runs out most of the clock and stuff, and just
yeah, it's 4th and 1 right now. So I wonder if Illinois goes for it. It's 4th and 1 from Nebraska's 38.
Probably that field goal.
I mean, if I'm Illinois, I'd go for it here. I mean, 4th and 1, you're kind of on fringe field goal range, especially for a kicker.
Ooh.
Moving into our first game to talk about on Saturday, USC Michigan. This should be a very good game. USC is favored by 4.5 as they have looked very good this year. They had the statement win against LSU and then a dominant win against just Utah State, but still 48-0 is always looks really good. And everyone had question marks over the quarterback situation with Caleb Williams leaving, but Miller Moss has looked like a stud. Lincoln Riley finds another one again. And the real talking point
just creates another one.
Another one, yeah. And the big talking point for USC so far is their defense is they've allowed 20 points in 2 games, which last year would have been absolutely unheard of. If they had that defense under Caleb Williams, they could have won the national championship, if we're being honest. They're taking on Michigan, who hasn't looked great this year. They're still ranked, but I think they're kind of just riding that off of winning the chip last year and being ranked 9th to start the year. I mean, they had a close game against Fresno State, much closer in the game. It was a one-score game before a pick six kind of put it away. Then they got dominated by Texas. Then they beat Arkansas State only by 10. They haven't really been able to figure out the quarterback situation. They've been kind of running out 2 different guys with Alex Orji and Davis Warren. Personally, I would love Alex Orji to start because that's just an awesome last name.
I knew it.
Orji. And also Davis Warren against Arkansas State was 11 for 14, 122 yards and 3 picks. He actually didn't have a pass fall incomplete, which is kind of funny. He completed 11 to his team and 3 to the other team. But I mean, he has looked pretty bad, and Orji is just a funny name, so I'm rooting for that because gotta love a good Orji.
Alex Orji has looked very solid, though. I think that he's going to play, most likely. But at the same time, man, I'm not going against USC. USC's looked very good to start the year. I understand it's week 1 LSU, and then it's Utah State. But it's not the same Michigan team either. They struggled against Fresno State, of all schools. They're not going to look good this year. They got absolutely rocked by Texas. I'm sorry, but Michigan's not the team that everyone thinks that they are. Michigan's nothing compared to what they were last year. They're going to get dominated in this one, too. I have 28-14. I think that the offense is going to look pretty bad in this one for Michigan. I think USC's offense is going to have a solid game, especially in the second half. I've noticed they've started to kick things up. I wouldn't be surprised if this is close at halftime, like a 14-7, 14-6, something like that kind of game. And then in the second half, you see 28-14 is that final score. Miller Moss has a very good game, I feel. I feel like they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit less in this one. I think it's going to have to rely on Miller Moss, but I think they can do that. I think they can get the job done. Lincoln Riley is somebody I trust and believe in, especially going up against a vaunted Michigan defense. But it's just that offense for Michigan that's going to hold them back in this game, and the exact reason why I can't pick them to win. Even though Orji is a funny last name, all these different things, it's just it can't happen, man. I'm sorry. It's just he's going to get blue balls in this one.
That's actually pretty good. Give me USC 24-13. I think Michigan's defense keeps this close because I mean Michigan's got two guys that'll probably go in the top 15, maybe even top 10 of this draft, and Will Johnson and Mason Graham. Those guys are absolute ballers. They got a couple other guys on that defense. I mean, that even though their offense hasn't been good, their defense has looked as advertised for the most part. I mean, allowing 31 to Texas, but Texas offense looks otherworldly right now. Yeah, their offense looks so good right now where I don't really hold that. I mean, actually, I think 31's pretty decent for Michigan's defense, and I think USC.
It's like giving up like 15 to any other team.
Yeah, I think USC's offense isn't as good, so I think Michigan will be able to keep this game close. But yeah, I don't expect much out of Michigan's offense. I mean, David Edwards and then their tight end's pretty good, but their O-line they lost a lot. The receiving room's a bunch of nobodies, and their quarterback situation is pretty bad if I'm being frank. As much as I love the name Alex Orji, he hasn't really done much this year. He's more of like a running quarterback, like a dual threat kind of guy. He's just not ready for this. I think because I'm pretty sure he's like a freshman, so he's not really ready right now.
I think he's a junior, actually.
Oh, I don't know. Well, then if he's a junior, that's pretty rough.
I'm not sure what he. I know the other guy.
Orji is getting the start.
Yeah, I figured.
And then moving on to our next game, we have Utah and Oklahoma State. This very well could be what the Big 12 title game is. These two teams look like the favorites to win the Big 12. I mean, there's also still
Kansas a junior,
State, but these are the two. These were the two preseason favorites. So this could end up being a very crucial game for both of these teams. What are your thoughts?
What game is it again? I'm sorry.
Utah, Oklahoma State.
Oh, I think that this one's going to be very close. I think Cam Rising, he's listed to start, obviously. I mean, he's been dealing with a couple issues, but obviously with his hand and stuff, he should be good to go. On the other side, Ollie Gordon and then Alan Bowman's looked insane. So I'm going to lean Oklahoma State in this one. I just feel like they got the better ground game and passing game combined on the offense. It's going to be a headache for the Utah defense. And I'm going to go ahead and win 34-27. I think it's going to be very close. It's going to be a solid game, but it's going to be a higher scoring game, I feel. This is just one of those games where it could go really either way. But give me Oklahoma State. I think Ollie Gordon, I'm going to have to ride and die with him this season, considering he is my Heisman favorite. But Alan Bowman's looked very good as well. That's not to discredit him in any way because that offense has not missed a beat at all this year. And I think they don't miss a beat in this one, winning this one by 7 points.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie Gordon was also my Heisman pick. I think the dude's an absolute stud. He's kind of been a little underwhelming so far through 3 games this year, but Alan Bowman, their quarterback situation, is a lot better than I thought. So, I mean, yeah, they are 3-0. They've had some decent wins. I mean, they had a nice win over Arkansas that they come from behind. They won in double overtime, and then dominating Tulsa, dominating South Dakota State. But they do kind of have a tougher stretch coming up with Utah, then Kansas State, West Virginia, BYU, Baylor, Arizona State. Like, I mean, the rest of their schedule, it starts to get pretty tough. I mean, I guess West Virginia is probably the worst team they have for now on as they get into the Big 12, which is a very deep conference, just not as like top heavy as like an SEC or a Big 10, so they don't get talked about as much. So I think Oklahoma State understands that this schedule gets a lot tougher. I think they really lock in against a Utah team that has their star quarterback, Cam Rising, dealing with some injuries. He's not going to be at 100%. There got to the point where he almost took a medical redshirt. They weren't sure if he was going to be able to play at all this year. So I just think Oklahoma State wins this just because I trust their offense. I trust their quarterback and running back duo more than Utah. But I could see Utah winning this game. It is a very, very close game. It's Utah -1. It's one of those situations like the Chargers-Steelers game that close. So, yeah, I expect.
But just like that game, which quarterback do you trust more?
Exactly. Right now, I trust Alan Bowman more. And then moving on to what is expected to probably be the game of the week, Tennessee travels to Boomer Country to take on the Oklahoma Sooners.
I'm sorry, but unfortunately, we see games like this all the time where they're listed as game of the weeks, and we go in hyping up both sides. We think it's going to be an impressive, amazing game, and I don't think it's going to be a bad game by any means. It's nothing crazy, but 35-21, I have Tennessee winning. Tennessee's offense has looked otherworldly to start the season. They've continued to drop 40 pieces after 40 pieces, 65 in the first half against Kent State. And I get it's Kent State, but 65 points in the first half is insane. That's just insane to say. And In this one, I think that their offense is going to struggle a little bit out of the gate, but they're going to pick it up, especially in the second and third quarters where they thrived the most this season. And I think that Oklahoma's going to kind of have to play from behind for most of this game, and that's going to cost them. That's not to take anything away from Jackson Arnold. I think he's had a very solid season to start, 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He's looked phenomenal, but you're going up against the best challenge you're going to have so far in the season against Tennessee here. This is a very good defense, and they're going to be able to shut them down more often than I think Oklahoma's defense will to the youngster Niamalev Liava or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Nico. Let's see. I have it right here. Nico Alamaleva.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say his last name, but anyway, I do think that he has a solid game as well. I think that their team is going to do great, and they're going to win this one convincingly by 14, 35-21.
Yeah, I have Tennessee also winning this, but I think Oklahoma's defense will at least slow them down a little bit more than
31.
I was going to say 28, but I also don't like Oklahoma's offense that much. I mean, they only beat a Houston team 16-12 who lost to UNLV by 20 the week before. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
That's kind of scaring me. So I think this Tennessee defense, who's looked very, very good. They've allowed 13 points in 3 games. Granted, they faced Chattanooga, NC State, and Kent State, but still, 13 points in 3 games is pretty crazy. I mean, their offense has been actually, I didn't realize how otherworldly it's been. Let me do the quick math on that. That's 191 points in 3 games. That's disgusting. That's averaging over 60 points a game. So yeah,
like
their point differential right now is 178 through 3 games. That's crazy. Behind you, the Nico Alamaleva has been a beast, and then don't forget about Dylan Sampson, who through 3 games has 357 and 9 touchdowns. I mean, this Tennessee offense has been. Now that I'm kind of looking at it, I think I'm going to actually go with 38, not 28. I really think this Tennessee offense probably will actually put up a lot on Oklahoma. I go 38-20. The more I'm looking into it, I think Tennessee just absolutely dominates them. I think the SEC is just Oklahoma is not ready for this SEC type of teams. I think they kind of made a mistake leaving the Big 12 like they did. I understand the money, but I think as a football team, they're going to struggle for a couple of years to really adapt. I think Tennessee's really going to have their number because this Tennessee team looks absolutely insane so far this year. I think this is a game where Tennessee just comes out firing and has a dominant second half lead and then just kind of rolls through to the end of the game. Then moving on to our final game that we're going to talk about before I let Thomas kind of have the air to talk about is Syracuse Orange for a little bit. We're going to go with Kansas State, BYU. Both teams are 3-0. Kansas State is ranked 13th. BYU isn't ranked, but with a win here, they surely will be. I mean, they haven't really played any good teams. They beat Southern Illinois, then BYU, then Wyoming. So they haven't really beat great teams, but they are 3-0. If they do beat the 13th ranked team, they'd be 4-0. They for surely would get ranked. So they're looking to get ranked for the first time in a couple of years, make a statement win in the Big 12, show that they truly belong as they just joined this conference with all the conference realignment over the last couple of years. Kansas State wants to prove that they're a formidable threat to make the playoffs. So they're gonna come out firing, and I think Kansas State will end up winning this game after they really impressed me last week against Arizona. I thought Arizona was gonna win that game, and Kansas State won 31-7. So I think they continue to roll over that momentum. Give me 27-17 Kansas State.
Thank you for not picking my score prediction. 27-13 is my score prediction.
I was about to, and then I pivoted to 17 last
I heard it. I was like, man, I'll just say 10 or something. But I think that this is going to be one of those games where Kansas State continues to build off their momentum. They've looked very solid to start the season. And I think this is just another one for them here that you just can't go wrong. I think BYU hasn't played the competition of a Kansas State team yet, and this is going to be where they meet their match. I don't think they'll play necessarily terrible, but I don't think they're going to play good either, and they're going to pretty much lose this one by halftime. I think that their quarterback's going to make a couple mistakes in this one, probably an interception, maybe 2. Kansas State's defense has looked very good this year, and so I think that they can continue to build off that and win this one in convincing fashion, 27-13.
All right, and then your Syracuse Orange are currently losing 23-17 with 6:40 left in the fourth, but they did just get the ball back as Stanford just punted to them. do you think Syracuse is going to be able to pull this game off?
I do indeed. I think that we've been a fourth
Oh,
quarter
yeah,
team.
they just got an 18-yard pass. I don't know if you stream it. Are you still watching it? I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
looking at ESPN on my phone.
oh yeah.
You don't have Watch ESPN? You don't have like Spectrum or whatever?
I do, but it doesn't work for my phone sometimes. It like lags a lot, so I just go through Streamies because it doesn't lag as much on my phone. But
Oh, you don't have a TV in your room?
I do have a TV in my room, but it's all the way over there. So
Oh, you're just having
the
this on for
desk
the
the
okay.
desk spaced opposite to the TV, so I wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
I'm not looking back to look at the TV.
No,
But,
yeah, no, that makes sense.
I just threw it on my phone. But we had the deep bomb for a touchdown in this game, which was really nice. Actually, just on the last play of their offensive drive, they had 11 seconds to throw the football. Their quarterback had 11 seconds to throw the ball and could not find anybody open, which is absolutely insane. No defensive pass interference or holding or anything on our defense as well, which
McCord
is awesome.
has not had a great game so far, though, with 2 picks, one of them being returned for a touchdown.
Thank you. Yeah, we knew about the pick six. Yeah, that one hurt, especially since it was in the middle of the show. And I'm just like, I look down and I'm like, please don't be returned, and I just keep looking back.
Oh, Illinois scored a touchdown. They have the ball back. They just scored to tie that game up.
What's the score? 17?
17s with 2 minutes left in the third. I'm gonna probably once it ends, I'm gonna throw that game on real quick. That's
Yeah,
on
same
Fox.
here,
That should be a good game.
But
But
but I have to finish this Syracuse one first. We got 5.5 left, so we're doing
moving
all right.
on, though, we're gonna just touch up on a little bit of MLB before we end the show. With the playoffs coming, or to the regular season coming to an end at the end of next week, this is what the playoff standings look like so far in the AL. The Yankees are a half a game lead over the Guardians for the 1 seed. The Yankees are leading their division. The Guardians are leading their division. Houston's leading their division. Looks like Houston, for the most part, is locked into that 3
Houston
seed.
already clinched, I believe.
They actually haven't even clinched the playoff spot technically. Seattle is 5.
Seattle's right there.
Seattle's 5 games behind Houston for that
With
division.
like 10 left, though.
Yeah, exactly. And then Houston's 6 games behind the Guardians and the Yankees. So they're basically locked into the 3 seed to probably face Baltimore. But with the way Baltimore's playing lately, that's not a guarantee because the Yankees are winning their division. They're up by 3.5. They're losing to the Athletics right now. Apparently, the Athletics pitcher is just insane as he has a 2-hit through 5 innings. Juan Soto is injured right now, day-to-day with a knee injury. I pray he comes back soon because we need him. But anyways, Yankees up 3.5 games on Baltimore, and Cleveland's up 6.5 on Kansas City, 8.5 on Minnesota. And then, Houston. And then for the wild card, we have Baltimore is up 5.5 games for that
Kansas City and then Minnesota.
Over Kansas City, who in Kansas City's 2 games over Minnesota. And then Minnesota's only a half a game over Detroit, who's got hot recently, as Minnesota's kind of cooled off some. They have not been great. How do you think this AL playoff race ends up? Like, what would you say your seeding order would be?
Well, I think that the Yankees are going to get the 1 seed. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest Yankees guy, but as much as I make fun of them, they have a very deep roster this year. I think they're going to end up with the 1. I think the Guardians do end up as the 2. I think they've looked very solid. Obviously, those are the 2 teams battling back and forth. That leaves for number 3, obviously, the Astros. And then, oh my gosh, we just completed a 3rd and 18. That's insane. But anyway, to kind of continue with that, though, I think that the Astros, obviously, they're locked into the 3 at this point. I don't think the Mariners jump them. The Mariners don't make the playoffs either, sadly, for the Mariners fans. One thing that I do think changes is the Minnesota Twins, the final spot. They lose that spot to the Detroit Tigers. It's the only thing I have changing. Bless you. I do think the Royals end up with that other wild card in place of where the Orioles are. So the Orioles, then Royals, and then lastly, the Detroit Tigers making it in the final wild card spot, all thanks to Skubal. I do think that they have a very solid team, and oh my gosh, he's staying on his feet. But I think that this is going to be a very good AL race at the end here. It's going to be between the Twins and the Tigers, and then maybe the Mariners, if you can throw them in there too. I guess they're right there in the mix. But I do think the Royals stick. I think the Tigers end up with that other wild card spot, and that'll be my seeding. So it'll be Astros, Orioles, and then the Guardians taking on the Tigers. And Guardians, Royals. I think I don't know.
It would be Guardians, Royals, yes. Tigers
Guardians,
take
Royals.
On. Well, no, it would be actually, no. What it would be is the Yankees and the Guardians both have byes. Then the Astros take on.
Oh
the
yeah,
Tigers,
Royals play the Tigers.
Royals play the Orioles. It's 3-6-4-5. And then the 1-2, yes.
Royals and Orioles is gonna be fire, bro. Please let that happen.
Gunnar versus Bobby.
Dude.
So yeah, for me, I also have the Tigers overcoming them because this is who the Twins play. They have 3 against the Red Sox, 3 against the Marlins, and then 3 against the Orioles. While the
they
Tigers
probably won
have
all 3 against the not the Red Sox, but the team in the middle.
Marlins.
Yeah, Marlins.
And then the Tigers they're in the middle of 3 against the Orioles. Then they have 3 against the Rays and 3 against the White Sox. And my thought process is the White Sox are worse than the Marlins.
Touchdown, Syracuse Orange.
Then the Rays are worse than the Red Sox, and then the Orioles just wash out because, well, it's the same team. So the Tigers have an easier schedule, and they have been playing better. I mean, they just swept. They took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles earlier, or like last week. Then they just swept the Royals this week. They did lose today, but that was with Corbin Burns pitching, so that kind of happens. And then Yankees 1 seed, Guardians 2 seed, Houston 3, Baltimore 4, Kansas City 5, Tigers 6. I think the only reason Minnesota's even in this conversation is because of beating up on the White Sox. I mean, similar to Tigers, but at least the Tigers are kind of healthy.
Same even with the Royals. That's why the whole AL Centrals looked insane, except for them.
And then I think the Twins are without their starting pitcher who's been out for a couple weeks.
They are.
Since Joe Ryan's got injured, they have looked worse. Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton have been battling injuries too. They're finally healthy, but
since the deadline.
The Twins just their top hitters with Correa, Buxton, Royce Lewis can't stay healthy or consistent.
I remember near the deadline, the Orioles had like a 3-game division lead over the Yankees, and now they're back by like 4 or 5.
They're down by 3.5 right now. Did see the Yankees score? Let's go the Yankees. I love you, Anthony Volpe. 2-out rally because it was Rizzo got walked with 2 outs, then Grisham with a single, then Volpe with a single. So now it's 1-1. Runners on first and second with Verdugo up. So he will hit a ground ball to end the inning. I'm calling it right now because that's all he can do.
Fair enough.
Yes. But anyways, moving on to the NL, we have
Phillies clinched a playoff spot tonight.
Dodgers. What?
Phillies clinched a playoff spot tonight.
The Dodgers and the Phillies are battling for the 1 seed, with the Phillies have half a game lead in the win column over the Dodgers for the 1 and 2. They're both leading their division by enough games where it's probably not much of a race unless they collapse.
No.
Then we have the Brewers basically have their division locked up. They're up by 9.5 over the Cubs, so they're locked in. They'll probably end up with the 3 seed, but they're only a couple of games back of the Phillies and the Dodgers, so there's a possibility where they could snag one of those 2 top seeds. So it's not like the AL where they're kind of just locked in. It's a possibility. And then for the wild card, we have the Padres as the first wild card. That would be the 4 seed. And then they're 2 games over Arizona, who has the second wild card currently. And then the Mets, who are half a game behind the Diamondbacks. And then the Braves are 2 games back of the Mets. That's mostly a race because then you have the Cubs 6 games back. They don't really have a chance. I guess the AL, I'll mention some other teams in the race, even though we didn't talk about it. The Mariners being 2 games back, Boston being 4, Tampa being 4.5. But we don't really think that they're going to make it, so we didn't really mention them. How do you think the NL playoffs will shake out? How do you think the seeding will be?
I don't think anything really changes. I mean, the Brewers are pretty much in the same spot as the Astros, as they're not going to catch up to the other 2 teams. They're probably locked into that 3. The number 2, I think, goes to the Dodgers. I think the Phillies can hold on there. The Phillies have a pretty easy stretch down the last little bit after us, of course, us being the Mets. And then I do think that on the opposite side here, the Braves, I don't think they're healthy enough. I think that they're too beat up to make it in over the Mets. I think the Mets end up with the final spot, and I think the Diamondbacks just narrowly by a game, maybe 2, beat the Mets for that 5th spot. And then obviously the 4, I think that the Padres get. The Padres have looked very good this year, and I would not be surprised at all to see them in that running as well. So yeah, give me them. And also real quick, 2-minute warning in this game, 24-23. From their 40-ish yard line is Stanford with the football. So it's 2nd and 2. So
yep, at the 49-yard line, I just looked and saw that. That's going to be a good game for us to keep our eyes on. For me, I have the Dodgers overtaking the Phillies as that 1 seed because they have 6 games against the Rockies remaining. I understand the Phillies. I mean, it's not much harder. They have to face the Nationals, They're basically they have the Mets, then the Cubs, then the Nationals, so not much harder.
They
But
might
the
drop
Dodgers,
one to the Cubs.
they have
though.
two. I bet you they lose one of these next two to the Mets, and they probably lose at least one to the Cubs, and they could lose one to the Phillies. I think the Dodgers at most lose one to the Rockies, and then they have 3 against the Padres. I think they win at least one of those games. I think that they probably end up winning two from the Padres. So I think the Dodgers only lose one more game throughout because I think they sweep the Rockies because, well, the Rockies are god awful. And then for the wild card, I think the Padres do hold on. They've been like the best team in baseball since the All-Star break. Them and the Diamondbacks have been like the top 2 teams. They've really gone on a tears. They both started out the season very slow, but I mean, the Padres, their lineup's extremely deep. You got Arias, you got Tatis, you got Machado, you got Cronenworth. The pitching,
I think they match up very well,
which has always been their biggest weakness. The starting pitching has always been their biggest weakness, but their bullpen's been very, very good with Tanner Scott, the deadline addition from the Marlins, heading that front. And then the Diamondbacks, their offense has just been, they're the highest scoring team in baseball. Their offense is just absolutely crazy. They've been just mashing the crap out of the baseball since the All-Star break. I think they both continue on that hot streak and they lock into those. And then I will go with the Mets, as much as I hate to say that. I did, as a joke on one of our other shows, say the Braves just to be a dick to Thomas because it would be funny. But it will be decided. The Mets and the Braves do face each other for 3. They do have a 3-game stretch coming up in the middle of the week. And then the Mets have the Brewers. So Atlanta has a chance. I mean, they have the Marlins.
Have a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Marlins, and while the Mets have the Phillies.
Did the Braves win tonight?
No, the Marlins won.
Thank God, because if they would have won, they would have been only a game back.
Game and a half.
Like, game and a half.
Oh, no, game. Yeah, game. No, game.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah, see, I know my Mets better than you do.
And then, well, they do have 2 more against the Marlins. If they can win those 2 games, that would be huge, just because especially if the Mets lose 1, then they're only a game back of the Mets. And then it basically comes down to that final that series between the Mets and the Braves. Probably whoever wins that series gets the spot, because then the Mets have the Brewers while the Braves have the Royals, which the Royals are a little bit worse, but the Brewers are going to have most. Actually, they're probably going to be competing for that for the 1 or 2 seed, so they'll probably continue to play through. I mean, I don't know the Brewers' schedule the rest of the year. Let me look at.
Well, you don't know though, technically, because if you think about it, if they're going into that last game and there's not even
Diamondbacks, Pirates,
why would they play anybody good?
Yeah, I mean, maybe who knows? But who knows? Maybe the Royals they could have it where they have the 5 seed locked up going into that final game too, because they're 2 over Minnesota right now and 3 behind Baltimore. They could, going into those final 2 games, they could have everything locked up too, and they might rest their pitchers. But then again, you don't usually rest pitchers just because it's like you want them throwing in a rhythm, because that's how much baseball is. It's so rhythm based.
Right.
But that is all we have for today. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you like and subscribe. We are now out on Spotify. I just posted our first episode. This one will be out there too. So if you see us on YouTube, see us on Spotify, please share, please like, please get the word out. We're trying to grow this brand and have some fun while we just talk about some sports. It's always a great time with Thomas and I, especially since there's always much to talk about, especially during football season in the sports world. I hope you all have a great
October
night.
Coming up, so we got baseball getting to its peak. We got hockey just starting up. Everything's still.
We got basketball, we got baseball, we got football,
too.
College football. There's so much to talk about these next couple months. You're not going to want to miss it. I hope you all have a great night.